Hello and a very warm welcome to our latest market update with me, Andrew Dawkins, and
myself, Daniel Baverlock. We'll look back at the month of May. Andrew, how was your month?
May was good. It seemed to have been quite a long month, I think.
It's a bit longer than usual, didn't it?
Yeah, 31 days. And you were away, back to one of your many homelands?
I did. Went to my main homeland in Poland, and yes, I got a little wee bit ill, but that's okay. That's what it is. Still got to enjoy it and see my family, which was nice.
That's good.
Yes.
Excellent.
So how did the markets perform in May then?
Well, a positive month, really. And the big winner is finally, roll on the drums, the UK. So the best performing investment funds that make up the portfolio were both in mid, small and large UK cap stock. The average fund growing by 5.5% this month. So a really, really good month for the UK, and a positive month generally for all the portfolios that we run.
It's great to hear that the UK performed well last month, and I guess the big news that came out of May was the general election that's coming our way now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, well, I think for once in a very long time, markets haven't been too spooked at all by any of the potential results. So Conservatives remaining in government, Labour taking over, or even a hung parliament. And the real reason for this lack of excitement, if you like, in the money markets and volatility of the pound's been very stable, is really the fact that, unfortunately, the UK, like many other countries, has got so much debt. There isn't a great deal that any government can do to sort of bring in a radical reforms. So it's a fairly sort of calm period. I think I can't remember a period that's like it really in the past going into an election. So neither the Conservatives or the Labour Party are too far apart in terms of banging the drum on economic stability and not wanting to scare the market. So I think actually that there's not really been a great deal of change in markets between now and when we get the results in the beginning of next month. So looking at the UK, the rate of inflation has fallen. When we split it into various sectors, though, inflation is still high in things like insurance, in providing housing, things that really should be starting to fall now but aren't. And the reason for that is, as we've said just about every month going forward, going past from here really, is the huge amount of Bank of England base rate that we've got at 5.25, which really then adds to inflation and makes inflation last for longer. Because if you've got to pay more for your mortgage eventually, then that's going to pot up the cost of inflation. And if companies have got to borrow money at a higher rate of return, again, they're going to see prices increase across the sort of range of services and products that we buy. So inflation is coming down, and we're nearly at that magic 2% target that we want. And it's likely that at some point this year, the Bank of England will start reducing interest rates. The UK is doing well, though, in terms of growth. It's starting to generate some traction, and even the otherwise gloomy International Monetary Fund have had to increase their assessment of the growth of the UK. Mind you, the IMF don't have a particularly good record on giving forecasts and get it wrong just as many times as they get it right, but we still listen to them. Unemployment edged slightly higher in May, but not too much to give anybody sort of cause for concern on that one. The world of the stock market, the mega mining deal between your guys, BHP, and the old Anglo-American, that finally hit the buffers, and decided now that BHP is withdrawing from that bid. They can come back in another 6 months' time if they want to. And Anglo-American now has got the position of trying to deliver shareholder growth by looking to make some changes within its company. We'll see how they go with that. The UK government offloaded another £1.24 billion worth of shares in NatWest. And good news for the UK, it remains Europe's leading market for companies newly listing. So a lot of good things happening in the UK, despite what you hear in the press.
So a lot happening in the UK, but there's also a lot happening across the pond in the US, especially the end of May. We saw Mr. Trump found guilty, 34 counts. Well, how has that affected the markets there? And will it affect the markets? And with the election coming up there, what's the situation, Andrew?
Yeah, well, once again, I think really it's extraordinary that you can have an ex-president who's being convicted on 34 charges, and it seems to have no effect at all on his supporters. In fact, it's rallying them. So it's quite unusual. Mm-hmm. Something that you couldn't do here if Trump gets he is convicted. You couldn't run as a prime minister, for example, or stand for election if you're a convicted criminal. But anyway, it really hasn't scared the markets at all, because and again, another indication of how silly it's got, that the market doesn't get bowled over when you get something like that happening, because it's already a fairly crazy world of US politics. So no real big effect. And once again, the closer we get to November and the presidential elections, then we expect to see a little bit of movement in the markets, but not too much, given that many of the policies, similar to the Tories and the Labour Party here, are very similar. So nothing too much to scare commentators, but I think really when we look at the political side in America, there's quite a bit to be worried about, the state of democracy there. It's quite extraordinary. But anyway, on the economic side, then inflation once again continues to be fairly stubborn, and just like the rest of the world, it's causing people to scratch their heads as to when interest rates will be reduced from the Federal Reserve. There's showing no signs of doing that just at the moment. And just like in the UK, salaries are continuing to run faster than inflation, so that people are actually seeing that their buying power is improving, but you just don't feel that, because when you go and purchase something, every time you go it seems to be more expensive. And that's the thought you come away with, rather than actually I've got more money coming into the household each month. So it's a bit of a tricky one to get on top of. The housing market is showing some signs of stress, as people on shorter term mortgages are starting to pay more now for their finance. And it was hoped that they wouldn't have to feel that pain for too much longer, but now it looks like the Federal Reserve may not actually decrease interest rates until well towards the end of the year. Once again, interesting to note that even at the beginning of the year, the number of these so-called experts coming out and saying, well, the US is going to cut between 3 and 6 times in 2024. And it just shows you how daft these so-called experts are compared to the rest of us. The economy slowed slightly during the first quarter and was marked down from growth of 1.6% to 1.3%. We'd love to see a figure like that back here in the UK, but it was sort of disappointing and slowing and showing perhaps that the economy is starting to slow down as a result of higher interest rates. Nvidia continues its amazing rise with another set of first-class results delivered during May. And the company now has a market capitalization of around about $2.6 trillion. And so we're tipping it to become the world's #1 company by market share. So it really is a great success story. Mm-hmm. But unlike many other recent share price increases, it is delivering the profits. So it is still one that we have within the portfolio, within the funds that we use in quite a major way. But it's looking not too bad at all. Unemployment is still relatively low, and there's a good number of people getting jobs within the state. So actually, again, it's showing really, really good signs of potential.
So the two main players seem to be the UK and USA last month. So why don't we travel around the rest of the world and see how they performed?
Yeah, well, in terms of our emerging market funds, they actually were the fallers this month, so must do better for the next months. But they've been hit again by the state of gloom in the world in terms of ongoing conflicts, but also the signs that interest rates are not going to be reduced anytime soon by the world's leading economies. France had its credit rating downgraded by the credit analyst S&P. Now, I won't take too much into that. America last year got its credit rating downgraded and everybody got the knickers in the twist, but the US seems to be doing quite well, thank you very much. It's really on the size of debt that France has. It even surpasses the debt of the UK, so it's a huge level of really sort of finance that's been built there, and it needs to be repaid. And what you need to do to get there is either raise taxes, and then the extra taxes you use to reduce your debt, or look to ways to stimulate the economy so you can bring in more money and therefore more tax revenue. And doing something in between is neither one thing nor another. Germany, so its exports grow, and the economy actually started to perform in the first quarter of this year, but less than people had been expecting. And it's not really a great success story just yet. So needs to buck its ideas up. Elsewhere in Euroland, though, there's been some good work on inflation, and many of these, again, so-called experts are expecting then the Central European Bank will be the first of the major banks to start reducing interest rates, probably around about July or August, but we'll see if that comes to pass. Now, I've got a little update on the world's top 10 countries by gross domestic product.
Easy to say.
Yes. Which is takes no account of the world's population, so that some of the figures here, when you divide it by the number of people that live in those countries, then the chart's slightly different. But nonetheless, worth a run through, I thought.
Yeah. Why not?
So in first place is...
It's the USA always, isn't it? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second is...
China?
Well done. Third is...
I guess India, but I don't think.
No, actually, third is Germany, who overtook Japan last year. It was Japan for a long while, and then it flipped, and it was Germany, then Japan, then your friends over in India.
Okay.
So they're in the fifth place. Sixth place is the mighty United Kingdom.
Oh, well done.
7 is our lovely friends across the channel there.
Oh, oui.
Yeah, the French. And then we all go over to South America with Brazil, and then Italy, and finally Canada, bringing up the rear.
No Australia.
Ooh, I'm missing Australia on my top 10 now. I'll check it for next month. A new item for this month I brought in specially is Interesting Fact of the Month.
Oh.
Perhaps you could do a jingle for that, Dan, or something.
I'll organise something.
A jingle would be good. Interesting Fact of the Month.
Oh.
So this month's Interesting Fact of the Month is the total time spent on hold to HMRC, the tax people, in the last tax year was an incredible 798 years. I think we accounted for one of those years here in the office, but wow, come on, for goodness sake. I reckon if you actually got rid of that, you would increase gross domestic product by 0.5%, which would then mean we would be ahead of India. So come on, get your finger out, you civil servants manning the HMRC help desk, but don't look too carefully at our tax details, okay?
So as we do every month, we'll have a look at the A.R.D. consultancy portfolios and their performance. And we're looking at the 1 month, 1 year, 5 year and 8 year performance. And we will start with the defensive portfolio.
This month, up 1%. Over the last year, positive 10%. 5 years, we're up 19%. And 8 years, 49%.
And the cautious portfolio?
Same again for this month, up 1%. Over the year, 12% growth. 5 years up 30 and 8 years up 73%.
The balanced portfolio?
Guess what? Another 1% increase this month. Over the year, up 14%. 5 years, up 40%. And 8 years, 99%.
And the capital growth portfolio?
You'll never guess. This month, up 1%. Over the year, up 15. 5 years, 49%. And 8 years, 122% growth.
And finally, the aggressive portfolio.
Guess what? No, not 1%, but 2%. Over the 1 year, up 16%, 5 years, 57%, and 8 years, 145% growth.